Well, good morning, all. This is George McClellan, and this is Georgia's Hour, coming to you from FetcherNews.com TV, North Georgia's only live online internet show. Wasn't that a great interview with Brian's brother Jerry up there in Pennsylvania? They covered a lot of subjects, and there's an article that says that 47% people believe that Trump should drop out of the campaign. Well, those 40%, 7% wouldn't have voted for Trump anyway. They're all Clintonites. So what is important to know, what is absolutely important to know, is that Hillary Clinton is a god-awful, criminal, progressive, which means she's a Alinskyite communist, and she cannot be allowed to run our government and send this America off into an orbit that puts us in the same category as a third world nation. We're approaching it. If she wins, we are forever doomed. We will not get out of it. Your children will not get out of it. They will become little creatures of the state, and so, you know, Trump is a Captain Klieg. I'll give him that. At least he knows how to run the ship. But he's just a little loose, I think, in his thought process. And he has this tweet thing, this tweet mania that just gets him into trouble. And I'm convinced of something else. I think that decade-old tape that was foisted on us here, I think the Republicans did that. I believe that was the Republicans, and that was the Republican part who make up the state. And the state is omnipotent, and they are trying to make they're trying to make Trump, of course, an enemy of the state. And we will all be enemies of the state if we allow Hillary Clinton to take over and run that government. The emails, the latest dump on emails from Wikipedia is interesting. John Podesta, one of Hillary Clinton's largest advisors, he's in trouble now. Him and this other woman, and I haven't got her name right here, have allowed themselves to get in the limelight because they are down on Christianity. They are down on particularly Catholicism. And my Catholic Christian friends out there, if you think that Hillary Clinton is on your side, you are making a great, 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 great mistake. Also, Podesta has advised Clinton that Obama's climate change nonsense is probably not working, and she ought to abandon that as a theme. And we proved it yesterday when Al Gore stood at the stage. Where did they dig this guy up and put her with, the two awfulest examples of politicians and hypocrites, they put together on stage in Florida, and it was a flop. It was an absolute flop. But Hillary's current campaign chairman, Podesta, was concerned about attracting unwanted political baggage by standing too close to President Obama's record on climate change. And that started months before the Democratic convention. Podesta, whose email account was hacked, raised the issue in vetting the speech Clinton was expected to deliver at a clean energy conference put on by Senate Democratic leader Harry Reid of Nevada. Every year I take a trip out west. I have for the past several years. I take a motoring trip out west, looking for more details and information that I can use in upgrading the book I wrote on one of the Astorians, and this is not the time for that, but it was prior to the Oregon-California Trail. And everywhere I go, I now see our landscape littered, absolutely littered with tall white windmills, allegedly powering energy to replace fossil fuels. I read in the news yesterday that Germany, the country of Germany, has bought into this business, this climate change business, and are actually considering doing away with the internal combustion engine. The Germans invented the diesel engine, for God's sakes. Now they want to do away with the internal combustion engine for their automobiles. That means Mercedes-Benz and Volkswagens and whatever else it is that they produce there, and go with little electric cars and or pedals or squirrel cages to make them run. The world, we are being governed by morons, absolute morons. We cannot exist and make money and make livings and do what we want to do without fossil fuels. Gasoline will be around for a long, long time. Yes, we can make internal combustion engines more efficient. Do you remember the Wankel engine from several years ago, the Wankel? The Wankel was a rotary engine that had three points of contact inside of a chamber, and the chamber wasn't perfectly round. It was kind of triangular shaped with round edges, if you can picture that. Well, the Wankel engine was efficient, but it used too much fuel, and it put out too much fumes. Now there's a British firm that has taken the Wankel engine and have upgraded it and are working on now solving those problems, and they're doing so successfully. It is that kind of engineering that we need to pursue all the time. All right, I like the idea. If you have to have an electric engine to save money and reduce fuel, and I might say, the air is cleaner now than it was when I grew up as a boy in Southern California, when the smog would fill up my valley. There's still some of that, but there's less of that than by far than it was when I was a little fellow. But anyway, so you have an internal combustion engine driving a generator that keeps your electric motor going. Fine, that works. If that works and if that sells and people want to buy it, I am all for it. I am all for it. I do not want the state to tell me that I have to have that electric engine, which only goes 220 miles, before I have to plug it in again. I will not be making my trips out west if that was the case. So I'm a fossil fuel fellow. Gas and oil, that's fine. I grew up with it. I like the additions made. I like the fact that we have converters on cars and that reduce the smog, and smog was the big word when I was there. So we're off on a different tangent, both politically and in my comments. I was talking about the Podesta serving as the White House counselor to President Obama, and he provided at the time feedback to Clinton through his private email account, through a private email account. That was her account. Podesta had few problems with the speech, but told a Clinton aide to make a slight change when referring to the president's desire to have climate regulations in place. That's the finger on the regulations. That was for the last December's meeting in Paris, where they would try to work out a deal on climate change. Well, any deal on climate change right now has to be approved because it's a treaty, and it has to be approved by our Senate. So we now absolutely see the necessity of keeping the Senate in conservative hands. Unhappily, many of our senators, including Mitch McConnell, are not conservative. They are part of the state. The time will come when we can start sorting those people out when we get control of everything, and that includes the presidency. That's why, regardless of Captain Klieg's maneuvering the two iron balls in his hand and playing with his tweet machine, we've got to elect Donald Trump. We cannot have Hillary Clinton. It's easy place to be generous without taking on any baggage, Clinton was advised. She said that she supports Obama's power plant rule, called the Clean Power Plant. I think the Clean Power Plant, biggest, largest, most efficient, is the nuclear power plant, not these windmills. These windmills are an eyesore. They're killing more eagles and other birds than you could possibly imagine. They're slicing them up. And the same with the solar collectors. If somebody had a solar collector on their house, to make their hot water go, fine. I had that in Hawaii back in the 70s when I lived in Hawaii. I had a hot water heater that was totally solar operated, worked efficiently, and I didn't have 6 feet of space on my roof. And I had it installed. It wasn't there when I bought the house. I went green, so to speak. But my goodness, did I save electricity money, because the only thing I burnt in my house with electricity was the stove, the lights, and the hot water heater. That hot water heater, my electricity bill in Hawaii was cut in half. Clinton says she supports the Clean Power Plan, but hasn't referred to it at all on her campaign trail. Why is that? Instead, she promotes her own clean energy agenda. That's why, of deploying 500 million solar panels to provide low carbon, clean electricity while expanding the number of jobs. She could have said that whole thing without using the term expanding the number of jobs. She's not making any jobs. And those power panels, they shine up in the air, they reflect sunlight, they get in the way of airlines, flights, they return heat to the atmosphere, so they're burning holes in the Van Allen layer, I suppose you could say. And they also, birds flying over it at certain elevations are adversely affected. In fact, there's reports that some have been cooked while flying. Well, at least killed, but hit the deck. That Clean Power Plan is undergoing a court review. A 10-judge federal appeals court panel is expected to go to the Supreme Court next year. No matter what the judge decides, the plan directs states to cut their greenhouse gas emissions by a third by 2030. A group of 28 states and more than 100 groups are fighting the climate plan in court. Well, if we defeat Hillary in November, we don't have to worry about it anyway. That's out. Alleging herself too close to the plan could set Clinton up for a fall if the Obama plan is curtailed by the court. We see the machinations. If they have judges that are liberal in these appeals courts, they'll never get to the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court is liberal, because Clinton appoints them, then we're in trouble. We are off the rails completely. America as a representative government is gone. We will now become a Soviet-style state, top-down control, and Clinton sitting at the top of it. This evil, wicked, odious woman and her sexist husband, her rapist husband, this felon, they're sitting there back in the White House dictating to the economy while stealing our tax money. They're thieves. They've always been thieves, and there will continue to be thieves. That's enough on, probably enough on the climate. I just said that. Here's a comment. Obama readies clean energy end game. The White House is devising an end game strategy to pass a suite of clean energy tax subsidies that were swept to the wayside in last December's omnibus spending bill. That was a concession by Obama to get everything else he wanted, like Brian talked about, with Paul Ryan as the new speaker. Brian Deese, one of President Obama's top advisors, told an energy conference that the White House is working on a clean energy endgame with its allies in Congress, and if they have allies in Congress, it can only be Republicans because they can kill it, to see tax credits for a variety of alternative energy resources passed on the November election in the lame duck session of Congress. So you see how these people work behind our backs. They're trying to get things passed through a lame duck Congress, which means the president is almost gone. They have to do something, so they will get him out. They'll pass his little bills. And they use the tax code to get it. You'll have you'll have this tax credits. That's what they, and oh, we all like tax credits. And speaking of tax credits, it's time for us to pay our bills, and so we'll see you on the other side of these few commercial announcements.
Pizza Hut makes the best pizza in the entire universe, but they won't tell you that. I've been marooned on this planet for a while now. You are an impressive race. Your children know excellent hiding places. Your oceans aren't filled with lava. And you figured out how to combine a grilled cheese sandwich with a Pizza Hut pizza. Surely interstellar travel will soon follow. And then I can finally get back home. Round. Round like home. The grilled cheese stuffed crust pizza. Proof that no one out-pizzas the Hut.
I'm Sheriff Dane Kirby, and I'll stand up for you.
I'm Stacy Nicholson, Sheriff of Gilmer County, and I will stand up for you.
Stand up and speak out. No matter how rich, cool, talented you believe yourself to be, how you treat people ultimately tells all. I am Allison Sosby, District Attorney, and I'll stand up for you.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in Ellijay, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair, and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on-site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
The Chevy Model Year End Clearance Event is on at Days Chevrolet in Jasper with savings up to 16% off MSRP. Our biggest discounts of the summer. Save over $4,100 off a new Chevy Malibu, just $19,500. Huge truck savings too, up to $8,600 off loaded Silverado Crew Cab LT. Now only $33,500. Don't miss the Model Year End Clearance Event at Days Chevrolet in Jasper.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
Welcome back. This is George McClellan at FetchingNews.com, TV, internet, North Georgia's only live internet talk show. You can reach me at the number above. It's 706-889-9700. You can contact me, George, at FetchingNews.com if you'd like to use the email. Remember this, I haven't heard from him for a while, but Josh Earnest. I wonder how this fellow sleeps at night. He's the spokesman. He's the communication director for the White House, meaning Barack Obama. And he can stand up there in front of the press corps, the Washington press corps, the White House press corps, and tell them things that are so outrageous and so stupid, and we believe it, or we never see anything done about it. But here, this is the latest. The White House spokesman, Republicans have only themselves to blame for Trump. Now, his reasoning for it is different than my reasoning for it. White House spokesman Josh Earnest said Republicans have only themselves to blame for being in the situation of either having to back a controversial nominee or abandon Donald Trump with Election Day less than a month away. He's not going to be abandoned, and he's not quitting. Why? Ballots are already printed, ballots are already being voted for, and the military ballots have been sent out. So it's not going to happen. There's going to be no change. For more than 7 years, in almost 8 years, Republicans in Washington have prioritized opposition to President Obama. Of course they have. That's why they passed the omnibus spending bill. That's why they have refunded Planned Parenthood. That's why they have pursued the No Child Left Behind, those silly education programs that are ruining our educational system. But they've prioritized opposition to President Obama above all else, which led Trump to the GOP presidential nomination. It's because Republicans did not challenge Obama that Trump became the candidate and the nominee for the presidency of the Republican Party, nominee for the presidency of the United States. Ernest told reporters as he was traveling with Obama, came out of North Carolina yesterday, Ernest said, what my mom would say in this situation is, you reap what you sow. Well, of course, okay, that's charming. Almost every American leader condemned Trump after a 2005 video of him making a crass remark about a woman and using vulgar language to discuss her surfaced. Well, I think that the Republicans did that. However, they never mentioned Trump raping those 4 women Bill Clinton, having raped those 4 women that Trump had sitting in front of him at the second presidential debate. Yeah, there's pictures of Bill Clinton absolutely uncomfortable in that situation, but they never talk about that. No, and they never asked Chelsea what her opinion is of her dad's philandering and raping, but they always ask Ivanka Trump what she thinks about her dad's comments. So we're going nowhere. The press is in the tank, and they don't even hide that anymore. Ernest said, Obama finds the video repugnant. I don't care what Obama finds repugnant. I don't care about Obama. He's on his way out. His legacy is fixed. He's a loser. His foreign policy is in tatters. America is disrespected around the world. The Iranians are shooting at and attacking our warships out there. So Obama's opinion does not matter. Having to fish or cut bait on such a volatile nominee isn't something from which they'll quickly recover. Well, maybe, but we're going to have to fish. We're going to have to fish. Trump is going to have to be that president. He's what we got. He is what we got. And at least he'll have Rudy Giuliani as his attorney general, and Rudy really wants to go after Hillary Clinton and throw that lot in jail. And that might include Jim Comey, the director of the FBI, who in one fell swoop ruined his whole reputation. Both Obama and Ernest have charged before the Republican vitriol at Obama and refusal to cooperate with Democrats, and I tell you, they passed the spending bill, leading to a Congress that cannot pass much legislation, created an atmosphere that allowed Trump to rise. Absolutely true. That is absolutely true. Now, Donald Trump, on his side of the campaign, released a TV ad last Wednesday that hits Hillary Clinton on her pay-to-play politics. If you've seen that one, it's an amusing ad, but it's true. And accuses her of abandoning American workers while prioritizing her own financial interest, her Clinton Foundation. The 30-second spot is titled Corruption and comes just one day after Trump's team released a separate ad calling attention to Clinton's foreign policy failures as well as her health problems. Both ads will air nationally and in a handful of battleground states between now and Election Day. If we live in Georgia, we might not see them. We can see them on the internet or Fox News possibly. Hillary knows nothing about creating jobs, and that's true. She knows a lot about how to make money by abusing her and her husband's government positions. Her senior communication advisor, Jason Miller, said that in a accompanying interview. The Clintons have made a living out of selling government access to Wall Street and special interests in exchange for donations to their slush fund. conspicuously their slush fund, conspicuously disguised as the Clinton Foundation. And the biggest recipients of Clinton Foundation donations, charitable donations, is from the Clintons themselves. They pay their own foundation. So there we go. Donald complained on Wednesday that the media has avoided covering much of the damaging information about his opponent found in the latest WikiLeaks email dump, and that's the Podesta talks about their anti-Catholic stance. Their anti-Catholic stance. Very little pickup by the dishonest media of incredible information provided by WikiLeaks. Very little. WikiLeaks has released more than 5,000 hacked emails since last Friday from the account of Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta. Among other things, emails contain excerpts of Clinton's speeches to elite financial firms, as well as discussions in which aides and Clinton's daughter Chelsea expressed concern about the Clinton Foundation and the State Department being hooked together. The latest batch of Podesta emails released on Tuesday revealed that friends of Bill Clinton received special treatment from the former Secretary of State in the wake of the 2011 earthquake that devastated Haiti. Remember that? Clinton aides urged the acronym FOB, Friends of Bill, in their correspondence to identify individuals who were very close to former Secretary of State's husband, Bill Clinton. At a rally Tuesday night, Trump said the WikiLeaks emails prove that Clinton is a vessel for corrupt government, global establishment that is ruining the sovereignty of our nation. And that now brings me around to an article that I thought I would share with you. Are we actually headed for a cashless society? Kenneth Rogoff, an economist from Harvard, has a new book, and it's called The Curse of Cash, arguing the benefits of a cashless society. Events are leading to what will be the worst financial crisis of all time, a loss in confidence in government, creating utter chaos in the markets over the next few years. A case in point, governments around the world are trying to restrict the use of cash or paper currency. If central bankers and governments get their way, large denominations of physical cash are going to be banned. This push forward is fully digitized. Digitized means cashless. It's a digitized monetary system. It makes that little piece of plastic, that credit card or that debit card, that's it. Where every transaction will be recorded, scrutinized, controlled, and taxed. And it's being sold to the public as a cure to rid the world of terrorists, drug lords, and other criminal behavior. And it will also rid the world of you, rid you of the world. Oh, well, anyway, they'll come looking for you if you even screw up a little bit. And they suspect, all they do have to suspect that you bought more than you needed to buy, or you were outside of your what you normally buy, or you bought things that they considered illegal. Rogoff has written many insightful articles about various aspects of the economy, but when it comes to his views on a cashless society, he is just wrong. In his book, Rogoff argues that paper money fuels corruption, terrorism, tax evasion, and illegal immigration. I don't want the government to be so right or think they are so right that they can come after me. I will go into the black market economy. Everyone will. They'll have to. It's the only way for people to survive. Rogoff claims that his plan would reduce money laundering and thereby reduce crime, while at the same time exposing tax cheats who deal in cash payments. That may be true, but how do you deal with the Clintons? How do you deal with the Clinton Foundation? They will be exempt because they're corrupt, And the corruption is what runs their whole operation. They cannot exist without being corrupt. Do you really believe the mafia or drug cartels will stop doing business just because the government eliminates paper currency? Not a chance. It might inconvenience them, but it certainly won't stop them. This will just force those illegal activities to go further underground and come up with a new form of exchange or barter system. Already one has been introduced. It's called the Bitcoin. The Bitcoin. It's a new barter system. People will go to that if it hasn't fallen apart before that. And what about good people? Me, Lonnie over there, BKP. We'll be forced to go underground too. And here in the United States, the state of Louisiana has already banned the use of cash in all transactions involving secondhand goods. In other words, if you go to the thrift store, our thrift store here in town, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I mean, they contribute so much money back to the community. But if you go to the thrift store or a pawn shop and you can't buy anything with cash. That would include garage sales, yard sales. It'll all have to be flea markets. I mean, Louisiana has already banned cash in those places. So what are we going to do? Continue our lives with Big Brother watching us? George Orwell was right. If you haven't read George Orwell, look him up. His words are on the internet, or his books are in the library. George Orwell, Animal Farm, 1984. Read those two. So those that are advocating for a cashless society, just be careful. Be careful what you wish for. And speaking of cashless societies, we have to go to the economy, and we see these massive changes going on in Europe right now. The influx of Islam, and now they're demanding Sharia law, and they're making demands on government. That government is, the people are starting to realize they are unwilling to accommodate. What is Europe's best hope when a region is faced with a long-term demographic decline that reduces growth in its domestic markets? It has little choice but to reinforce and expand its access to export markets and provide an opportunity to offset the decline in its domestic market potential. Bill Clinton took America out of that picture with NAFTA. Everything left America, nothing came back but crap from China. Walmart, which used to brag that it only sold American products, now only sells Chinese products. And there may be a Japanese one in there or something from Romania, but that's it. That's it. Furthermore, when this region has seen its power, and the region being Europe, and the influence over the global economy continuously eroded by its historic rivals for global economic power, as well as by emerging challengers, this region must do what it can do to retain its remaining influence before it's too late. What are we talking about? The China. Or we're talking about Russia. Europe's only source of heating fuel comes from Russia. So they're kind of locked, kind of between a rock and a hard spot. So the region in question is rather obviously Europe, and most of the leaders of the European Union are aware of the challenges facing their region and have championed a trade deal with their younger and more dynamic overseas partner, which would be the United States. We're trying to get there. This deal, which is called the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, as opposed to just the TPP, is designed to further enhance access to the growing U.S. market for European exporters. How can there be a growing U.S. market when our ability to buy things is being reduced by the high taxes that we face? The continuous high taxes imposed upon us by Obama's government. Obamacare has taxed us almost out of existence for health insurance. Can Europe provide us the same level of health care that we experienced with our private industry? before Obama destroyed it, and that stupid idiot Pelosi, who just said, by the way, on an aside, well, we have to elect Hillary Clinton to see what she's going to do about fixing Obamacare. Where did we hear that before? Anyway, they want to ensure that both the U.S. and the EU maintain their current levels of influence and control over the global economy at a time when emerging market rivals are gaining in strength and influence. That would be China, that would be India. China and India, and of course Russia. So we're getting up time for our break again. I will see you on the other side. We'll finish this discussion. I'll give you my final thoughts. This is George at George's Hour and FetchingNews.com TV. See you on the other side.
El Rey and Ellijay.
El Rey Mexican Restaurant.
Family owned and operated and a local favorite for families, parties, and meetings.
Great prices.
Friendly service and delicious Mexican cuisine.
Patio dining available.
Come sing in Carlos's Cantina every Friday 9 to 1.
Eat in or take away.
Same location for 14 years. Open 7 days at the corner of Maddox Drive and 515. North Georgia's favorite Mexican cuisine. El Rey and Ellijay.
Pizza Hut makes great pizza, but they can't tell you what a gift it is. I can. They took a grilled cheese and combined it with stuffed crust pizza. To think, I almost wasn't here to try it.
How did you?
It's not important, Jan. What's important is that I watched the sunrise this morning. Then I got to stand in a room filled with this pizza. And later I'll stare at the ocean. Or maybe I'll learn Russian. Or listen to jazz. Or try my hand at needlework. Or open a door for a beautiful woman. Or read a human interest story or make dessert wine. Or ride a wild horse. Or experiment with watercolors. Eat every slice like it's your last. Especially you, Doug. Especially Doug, right? You care about Doug. The grilled cheese stuffed crust pizza. Proof that no one outpieces the Hut.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Ellijay. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
What you gonna do with all that junk?
Well, welcome back, fun lovers. This is George McClellan coming to you from FetchingNews.com TV, North Georgia's only live internet talk show. The number you want to reach me if you need to talk is 706-889-9700, or you can email me, george@FetchingNews.com. We were talking about the economic situation between Europe and the United States. Europe wants to have this deal with the United States, this trade deal with the United States, and then suddenly Britain drops out. So we have a separate trade deal with Britain, and Europe is in a quandary, and hopes for a deal is fading. Unfortunately, for the increasingly export-dependent European Union, many of its voters do not view the TTIP as favorably as their political and business leaders do. And support for this trade deal is falling. In fact, the lowest levels of support can be found in highly export-dependent countries, and there's two of them, or three if you include Britain, and that's Germany and Austria, while support in countries like France and Italy has really fallen in recent months, despite poor outlook for both countries' economic condition. On the other side of the lake, that's us, protectionist sentiment, and Trump is talking about that, is also arising, with many political and business leaders rejecting the idea of making any concessions to a trade partner that they view as being in terminal decline. That's the EU. They think the EU is in terminal decline. With trade deals being a key focal point during our upcoming elections here in America, and with Germany, France, and a host of other EU member states preparing for their own national elections over the next year, it is becoming increasingly unlikely that a TTIP trade deal will be approved at any point in the near future. Favorable deal for Europe, while the United States would likely only derive small benefits from the trade deal, the European Union stands to gain significantly more. This is due to the fact that most European domestic markets record very low levels of growth in the years ahead, with purchasing power levels falling increasingly behind those of most other developed economies. As such, improved access to the faster growing U.S. and Canadian markets, and I have a problem about that. I don't know how our markets can be faster growing if we're not making anything that we can sell. And Canada apparently does have a growing market of exports through the equally criticized CETA trade deal, that's Canada-European Trade Association, would allow for European exporters to strengthen their long-term growth prospects, but it's not happening. As we have seen over the past 10 years, European countries and individual companies have relied upon their domestic markets or upon other export markets within the European Union for the bulk of their sales. Well, we get a lot of Volkswagens, we get a lot of Mercedes-Benz, we get a lot of Audis, we get a lot of German cars over here. They're not selling them all in Germany to Turkish taxi cab drivers. BMWs, they're everywhere over here. They're everywhere over here. Now, what else does Germany manufacture that we really want? In machinery, they're very good. I mean, I remember there was the decade of the wonderful German cameras. And then the decade of the wonderful German automobiles, and they're still producing these. But food products, no. They're consuming theirs within the European Union. German food products are being consumed. We're producing food products that feed Africa, India, China, Russia. We're selling a lot of our products there. But in contrast, countries such as Germany and Sweden have been able to export products outside of Europe, and they have performed significantly better thanks to a higher rates of growth in markets in Asia. Markets in Asia. Asia meaning China. The Chinese, even the Vietnamese, are now becoming capitalist societies, and everybody has more money. The Chinese, you see them as tourists all over the world, big industry in Europe, Chinese tourism now, like the Japanese and Americans. And so they are wanting to buy more products in Germany. If Germany has them, Germany can sell them. And they're being sold over there, same with Sweden. It's a clear signal to European voters that the region desperately needs to strengthen its export competitiveness, and access to export markets is a key component. The key to future prosperity, the last part of this, is being severely threatened by the rise of protectionism and isolationism, both within Europe and among its key trading partners, would be the United States. As Europe's demographic decline continues and domestic demands levels fall or stagnate, European countries will become even more dependent upon exports to generate economic growth. Well, they have to have markets if they're going to sell it. Should the TTIP and the Canadian-European trade deal collapse, the United States, Europe's leading export market, will continue to focus more of its trade and investment activities on Europe to the detriment of all European countries. And that's because our presidential candidates are still promising to make America great again. We hope that. We want to see our people back to work so they have money to buy European products. If nobody has any money, those exports, they'll have nothing to sell. Such a development would accelerate Europe's loss of power and influence over the global economy and leave the region increasingly marginalized, much as it is in terms of global political and security issues today. And we're talking NATO. When we speak of Europe, we're talking NATO. Worse, the already low growth potential of most European economies will continue to decline, with the region's economic outlook resembling more and more the situation that has befallen Japan over the past 25 years. As a result, Europe needs to overcome the resistance of many of its voters, sign the TTIP with the United States before the opportunity disappears. This election for us will determine whether that opportunity disappears. If Trump is elected, I don't think it'll pass. Neither will the TPP. Okay, America's other problem. We have a growing economy, a growing level of people in here who are not contributing to the economy because they're unemployed. And they're unemployed because there are no jobs. And this is adding to everybody's woes, everybody's American woes. But I'm talking about our uneducated black labor force. It's a situation that cannot be denied. And we got to talk about it. So this is my talk about it. If you have an opinion and you want to send it, by all means do. Americans of African descent, and let me tell you something, I don't use the term African American. If I do, it's just because it's an accident. Because most of these people, indeed all of these people, none of them have been to Africa. None of them. But they are Americans of African descent. Like most of us are Americans of European descent, and you put in whatever country you want. So they're Americans of African descent, constitute 13% of our population, and yet they are the least productive in the workforce. They are also the least educated because of the need to pander to voters. Democrat Party long ago forced industry into providing them unemployment, qualified or not. They also forced schools to advance them, whether they were educated or not. The lack of education had to be addressed regardless, because these people are pouring out of these schools, quote, educated, and they're not. Money was thrown at schools with the caveat that they must increase the number of black students vis-a-vis white students per classroom based upon some government formula demanding fairness and diversity. There's those two words again, fairness and diversity. Nothing is guaranteed in life, neither fairness or diversity or justice. Nothing is guaranteed. Then either the schools had to do it or face loss of federal funding. Charter schools, of course, were not acceptable for black children in Washington, D.C. The first thing Obama did when he became president in 2009 was defund Washington's charter school for black children. Education and the burden of its cost is the biggest joke played on taxpayers. When they graduate, many still cannot read. Well, were they educated? Public schools are turning out students today of all races except Asians, and I'll give Asians credit for being ahead of us on that, who cannot do their sums and are barely literate above the third grade level and have no clue about American history, except the anti-white portion of it. Why should that be allowed? No Child Left Behind, Common Core, progressive schemes all, and the obstructionist teachers unions are responsible for this debacle in our educational system. They don't want it. A preponderance of unprepared black children have been admitted into colleges and universities where they now constitute such a massive voice that they can just about demand and get anything they want. That's where Black Lives Matter comes in. Colleges and universities have turned into cesspools of insane ideas, all designed to pacify black students who demand what can no longer be provided to them, a real education. They don't want it. They want sanctioned equality, and college is the way to get it. During recent protests at some of our major universities and at Black Lives Matter events, screaming mobs of black youth demanding reparations, screaming "Kill Whitey," blaming racism, and etc., are barely able to speak and utter their words in understandable English. Yet they demand from a society that gave them a chance that which they are incapable of utilizing when they do get it. Why are these people accommodated? If they can't pass muster to get in, why are they let in? For diversity and inclusiveness, of course. Why is it important to seat a person in a classroom who can't otherwise qualify at the expense of one who could, yet pass them through to satisfy a progressive demand for fairness? They're in simply because they're black, and we are told we had to let them in, or it wouldn't be fair, and we would all be labeled as racist. Oh, the horror of that. That is starting to disappear as an important issue, I can tell you. When reality set in for colleges to legitimize that really stupid idea of clogging classrooms with incompetence, colleges fell all over themselves to create even stupider ideas like black studies departments, staffed by teachers who couldn't read, barely speaking proper English, or worse, were those who could read and were educated and matriculated out of schools with a Marxist curriculum. Well, Angela Davis at the University of California, Berkeley, as is a good example. Today's schools at all levels are not judged by the quality of their product, but by the number of diversified students that are passed on to the next level, whether or not they can read or write. States get federal money for doing that. If a classroom assignment requires studying literature, not written by Myra Angelou or another black author, then by all means don't trouble yourself to read it. Western culture was written by dead old white men. Their opinions doesn't count anymore. Instead, find a comic book superhero and report on him or her. Hey, whatever happened to black superheroes? Where are they? Well, they're in the movies now. Upon graduation, these poor fools expect they are qualified for corporate America to give them jobs. The federal government certainly will. We experience the wonders of that every time we call a federal office to ask about our taxes or the status of a veteran. We see them in the TSA herding passengers along like sheep, the only job where they can exercise any authority at all. Not surprisingly, a significant number lose their positions because they couldn't keep their hands off other people's property. The thieves. Old habits are hard to break. This 50-year failed experiment of giving in to the ever-increasing demands of the 13% just to sustain Democratic voter lists is wearing a bit thin, and it's time to close it down. Politicians have corrupted America, corrupted the black race, disrespected even the capable blacks, and have made a mockery of education. Now, when does that cease? Probably never. Probably never. Remember, freedom is the goal. The Constitution is the way. The rule of law is important. I'm George McClellan. Good day to you. Coming from FetchingNews.com, North Georgia's only online internet talk show. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.